Welcome everybody to episode 11 of the RoboTaxi Report. What you're seeing here is the community tracker set up by Elias, and as far as we know, this is the best way for other beta testers to get involved to help see where the data is going. To make collecting information simple for those who don't have the time to go in as much detail as Elias and I, he created this tracker you can use right from the browser in your car to measure your critical disengagements, your simple disengagements, as well as your interventions. These don't automatically upload to the tracker, but it's a way for you to jot it down, that way you can remember them later. Links to all this will be in the description. Credit where it's due, this idea actually came from EV Guy Canada, where we saw his FSD Beta tracker in his videos. He's continued to improve on it, and I'm excited to see where the final product ends up. On top of that, I'm happy to say that we have another beta tester that has decided to enter the scene with a data-focused approach. Gray Tesla Victoria is using a very impressive scorecard, or report card, however you want to look at it, to judge how the system is performing for them based out of the city of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. I'm extremely excited to see a more data-driven approach, both with EV Guy Canada's FSD Beta tracker and Gray Tesla Victoria's scorecard across their testing. Links to the channels will be in the description. I highly encourage everyone to go check them out, give them your support, and help continue this push forward, looking at all the data we can. Jumping into the RoboTaxi results, we're looking now at week 4 with 10.11.2. And this last week of testing I've been doing on chill in the assertive beta mode. Now while my sample size is not quite as high this week, there has been a noticeable performance shift with using the assertive mode of the beta. This next week, I'll be going back to average as I gather the last bit of data on 10.11.2 before finally getting 10.12, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday of next week. I was a little surprised to see just how much of a drop there was when using the assertive mode. I didn't think there was that much of a difference between the modes, honestly. But I definitely found myself in situations where the vehicle was almost acting too hastily, jeopardizing whether or not it would make it to the turn in time or execute the turn properly to get the customer to their destination. One of the main reasons my sample size is quite a bit lower is due to the fact that on one of my days of driving, I lost autopilot functionality for several hours. I did 2 screen resets, including getting out of the car and walking away to let it actually power off, and still did not have access to any autopilot or full self-driving functionality, so quite a few trips weren't able to be counted because I couldn't turn the system on. I went as far as to schedule an appointment with Tesla, but after supercharging, all of the autopilot functionality came back, and Tesla service was a bit of a dead end. Since the vehicle wasn't diagnosed, they just canceled the appointment, and I went on with my day. Hopefully this isn't a recurring problem in the future. It was very aggravating to not be able to do any testing, but let me know in the comments if any of you have had this issue or have heard of this. All of that aside, I'm extremely excited for the next update, and after 4 weeks with 10.11.2, I think it's prime time to get a new stack to test. As we take a look at city versus highway disengagements, it became pretty clear that I need to separate the day-to-day driving from the challenge series testing. So what you're seeing here is Gauntlet 1 and Gauntlet 2 depicted in all of the data, and what you're seeing now is 10.11.2 with that taken away. This is a clearer representation of the day-to-day function of the system without the extra strenuous testing that comes with doing things like the Gauntlet or the Devil's Crossroads. I thought it wise to show both with and without the challenge testing, that way you can see it yourselves. And I can avoid any scenario where someone tries to say that I am playing with the data in a way that makes the system look better than it might actually be performing. Now, one thing that I couldn't accurately represent in the graph showing the RoboTaxi trips is that I've actually had quite an improved experience on the highway autopilot by using Mad Max. It is noticeably better at making quicker decisions when it comes to lane changing, avoiding those scenarios where I would miss an exit, causing a disengagement, and a failure to a RoboTaxi trip. You can see on this graph here with a sharp uptick in city, likely due to the assertive mode of the beta. It's the only thing that really makes sense considering the consistency of performance between chill and average. You'll notice the highway version is much flatter. There wasn't as much of a change there because obviously different software stacks. If you watched the last Gauntlet video, the one with the aggro settings, it was very clear on the return trip that Mad Max was able to handle the sequential lane changes to avoid getting stuck on exit ramps to different highways and go the proper route. So if you haven't, I'd recommend switching to Mad Max and seeing how it performs for you. In looking at disengagements versus interventions, I thought it wise to do the same thing to show you both with the Gauntlet testing and without. I encourage you to flip back and forth between the data with the challenge and without so you can see the drastic difference in disengagements. One of the things that stands out to me when looking at this graph is that 10.11.2 across the board when taking out the challenges is rather consistent. Now, this seems a little contradictory to what I just said about assertive mode. Keep in mind this is total disengagements, including highway as well as city. So the lower amount of highway disengagements is going to help level this out, since you're not seeing the division between city and highway here. This is just disengagements versus interventions. That being said, this is a good representation of the consistency of 10.11.2 over the past 4 weeks. It also does a really good job of highlighting the improvements over 10.10.2 and even 10.8.1, as good as that was. Our donut of causation continues to evolve as we look at another week of disengagements spread out over each of these categories. On the previous donut, if you rewind, you'll see that it said critical, and on this one, I've changed it to safety. Safety being labeled as critical creates a bit of an issue when it comes to considering the legal disengagements, because those would technically be critical as well. So to avoid double counting disengagements, I'm separating the safety disengagements from the legal disengagements. The other new addition to this list is large vehicle. Surprisingly enough, in the previous 3 weeks, this has not been a problem. But this last week, luck was not in my favor. All three of these circumstances were when a large vehicle was turning onto the street that I'm on and coming over the yellows into my lane. The system didn't handle the situation very well. Rather than let it get into a sticky situation, I decided to take over to be courteous to the large vehicle. Truck drivers and the like have enough of a hard time with people on the road in general, so I wasn't going to add to that. Decision making and execution on those decisions continues to be the largest portion of these disengagements, and I would much rather that be the case than to be worried about safety or legal issues being at the top of the list. The human factor is an interesting one because until we've got a good amount of vehicles on the road that are autonomous, that human factor is always going to be there. And the bigger the city, the more densely populated it is, the more people are on the road, the higher that percentage is going to be. It's really hard to work around that. That being said, the system does do quite a good job. So this coming week, I'm actually going to be heading on a road trip up to Eugene, Oregon. I'll be out of town for a couple of weeks, and as such, the RoboTaxi Report's going to be on pause until I get back. But don't worry, the Monday that I'm back, I'll get everybody caught up on all the time missed with a large, all-inclusive RoboTaxi report. Since I'm driving up, I'll be able to actually work and grab customers all the way up to the California border before hitting Oregon. So this should be a great opportunity to get a lot of content with a lot of people all through this very large state. And don't worry, I don't plan to stop in California. Even while in Oregon, I plan to get all the beta footage that I can. I'm imagining beautiful scenery, challenging spots, rough weather, and a whole lot of unknowns. In the meantime, while I'm gone, I plan to have videos continue to drop. That way the channel continues to put out content. These are all going to be customer reactions videos, which I'm sure you're not upset about, given they seem to be the audience favorite. If you have any ideas or suggestions for areas you'd like to see me test the beta, head over to the community tab on the channel and leave me a comment on the post where I asked this very question. I would love to hit all the spots I can. If the suggestions end up in one of my videos, I'll make sure to give you credit for the idea too. So head on over and let me know what you think. I'm super grateful for the continued support and enthusiasm behind these data-driven videos. As always, please leave your feedback and suggestions down in the comments below, and thank you so much for the view. Take care.